Hello, everyone. Welcome to Cherry the Geek TV. I'm Joe Vanourney. Today, we are talking with Michael Hirsh. He's the visionary co-founder of the animation companies Nelvana, Cookie Jar, and Wow Unlimited Media. He's collaborated with creators like Tim Burton and George Lucas and Steven Spielberg. And he's the author of a brand new memoir. It's called Animation Nation: How We Built a Cartoon Empire. Comes out on July 23rd, and I was able to get an advance copy and read it over the past few days. It's awesome. He's also appearing at San Diego Comic-Con Thursday, July 25th, in a panel in Room 9 with hosted and moderated by Mark Evanier. It starts at 10 a.m., and he'll be doing a book signing after that panel. Michael, welcome to Cherry the Geek TV.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Start off, I kind of gave the background of your companies you founded, but kind of give people a sense of some of the shows that they may be that you were part of it and helped create.
Sure. So, some of the shows that I'm really proud to have worked on were the first Star Wars cartoons, including the 10-minute cartoon that introduced Boba Fett. And Ewoks and Droids followed. They were the first Star Wars series for ABC TV. Produced Care Bears, Strawberry Shortcake, Babar, Tintin, Tales from the Crypt Keeper, Sam and Max, Magic School Bus, Franklin, Little Bear, Maggie and the Ferocious Beast, and there are many, many, many more. Then that was at Nelvana, and then went on to produce Arthur, Caillou, Johnny Test, and Doodlebops at Cookie Jar, and Inspector Gadget at both Cookie Jar and actually at Nelvana. And then at Wow Unlimited Media, really proud of Bee and Puppy Cat in Castlevania.
When you started in your book, you talk about you went to film school. You created these shorts for Sesame in the early days of Sesame Street, these animated shorts. Yeah. Talk about that real quick.
Sure. So briefly, never went to film school, studied philosophy in school, but made films on the side, and actually got excited about experimental American cinema in the mid-'60s. And Sesame Street was an opportunity that came to me when I was busy making experimental films, and a friend of mine came and said he had this subcontract from the Jim Henson Company to produce 5 commercials for Letters, which was how Sesame Street, began. And it was for the first season of Sesame Street. And he said, "Can you train a crew?" So I brought 5 of my friends who I did films with, and we got trained in plasticine animation. We did the cartoons, and then after that, we went to my friend and said, "Well, we want to keep going." And he said, well, he had another job and he really didn't mind. So we went ahead and built a group called Laugh Arts, which became Nelvana.
And that kind of led you on this path of animation. You created a show called The Cosmic Christmas.
Yes.
And that led to George Lucas seeing this and wanting to meet with you. And that is where he pitched you this short that was going to be a part of the Star Wars holiday special, where the character of Boba Fett gets introduced. Talk about that when you get this call from George Lucas saying he wants to meet with you.
Yeah, so at this point, I'm in Toronto. Nelvana is a very small company. We had produced our first fully animated show, Cosmic Christmas. We produced it knowing that next year, 77, was going to be a year of science fiction. Close Encounters was coming out from Spielberg. George Lucas was doing Star Wars. And we came up with this idea of Cosmic Christmas, where 3 spacemen follow a star and, come to find out the meaning of Christmas, right, on Earth. And it was syndicated in the United States, which means it was shown on an ad hoc network. So it wasn't on one network that was across the country at the same time. It was shown different times on different days over a 2-week period. So it was hard to find and see. But having said that, much to our surprise, Lucas had caught it, and he had negotiated when agreeing to do this 2-hour holiday special to promote Star Wars in between movies and keep the fans happy and keep the toy company happy. He had negotiated the right to have a 10-minute cartoon, and he was in charge of that, and he let variety producers produce the rest of the show. So, the call was a total sort of Easter egg for us. It was a great sort of call to get, because we were this tiny company in the middle of Canada as compared to, being in LA or New York, the key centers. So I flew out to San Francisco and, met with George at his house, and he explained what he wanted to do. And, I managed to convince him that we would do a great job, and we did. We're really proud of that cartoon.
It's a great little cartoon in the middle of the Star Wars holiday special, which is infamous for its variety show aspects that George Lucas has kind of since disowned. He's pulled your cartoon out, though. It's available on Disney Plus. The cartoon works. Everybody loved the cartoon. I'm curious. I was 8 years old when that Star Wars holiday special aired. For me, as a kid watching it, I didn't think. I loved it. I was like, oh, the Star Wars characters are on TV. I didn't think anything of it. I watched the making of documentary that a couple of months ago that they made about the making of the holiday special, and they have excerpts from the variety show part of it, and I'm like, ooh. So I'm curious, as a guy that had a little your animation as part of that, what was your reaction when you saw that the whole Star Wars holiday special in its entirety?
Well, I was disappointed in what the special looked like. It was just the wrong thing to do with Star Wars. But look, it kept the property alive in between movies. It kept kids wanting to buy Star Wars toys, which really fed the whole machine, and it played its role. But it was great to do the part of that special that sort of stands up today and was great at the time.
And
And
that
Lucas
led.
was terrific to work with. He knew exactly what he wanted. And when we showed him a storyboard of the whole 10-minute cartoon, he had watched it once. We took him through it, and he knew exactly the 3 shots he wanted to change. So I was really knocked out and impressed by his sort of keen intelligence.
That relationship went on. You also did the Ewoks Saturday morning show for ABC, and the Droids Saturday morning show for ABC. I love those. That I was so excited to talk to you, because Droids is still when I talk about all the Saturday morning shows that were my favorite. That Droids, especially Droids, it had a serialized aspect to it. And I read in your book that the reason they did that is they wanted each story to be 4 episodes each, and then they were going to package those together to sell as a movie later on home video. Talk about that experience working on Ewoks and Droids.
So the 2 experiences were very different because, obviously the Ewoks were a different type of show. So Ewoks was aimed at little girls primarily, but they were fierce characters. And so it was little girls, warrior girls, basically. Not that all the Ewoks were girls, but that was what, Lucas was aiming the Ewoks at. And in the case of Droids, you basically had the Laurel and Hardy in R2-D2 and C-3PO of Star Wars. Those were the 2 characters we were given from Star Wars. And, they were great comedy characters, and they meet up with different action adventure heroes and heroines and villains for each 4-episode adventure. Great soundtrack by Stuart Johnson from, the Police at the time. And, it was a fast driving show. But the thing that really was challenging for us, and challenging, I think, for George, was that standards in practice, which kind of dictated what you could do for kids on TV or American network TV at the time, kept pulling back on, you couldn't have weapons that looked like weapons. So we had weapons that looked like vacuum cleaners. You had to find ways to work around the rules, right? And in the case of Ewoks, we had a great theme song from Taj Mahal. So it was very different, very rootsy and exciting. And in the case of Ewoks, the stories, because they were, like this tribal family, it was better suited to Saturday morning. You didn't run into as many standards and practice issues.
In that same era, 1983-ish, you made a feature-length movie. It's called Rock and Rule. This is 2 years after the heavy metal movie. This movie has rock icons Deborah Harry and Lou Reed, Iggy Pop, Cheap Trick, Earth, Wind and Fire. They're all doing voices and or writing songs for the movie. Talk about this. This is one I remember, and you can't really find it nowadays. I was looking at pictures of it. I thought, oh, I remember that movie, and I haven't seen that in a long time. Talk about the experience of this rock and rule.
Yeah, so you can find Rock and Rule on YouTube. Almost everything goes to live on YouTube. Even the 1970 little cartoons we made for Sesame Street, the 1-minute commercials, live on YouTube. So God bless YouTube. In terms of Rock and Rule, it was exciting because we were creating a rock opera where instead of having one composer write everything, we had musicians, songwriters, rock and roll artists who had an expertise in a type of music, and we cast the characters to fit the personality of their music. So Debbie Harry plays the heroine, and she co-authors her stuff with Chris Stein. Cheap Trick puts out the music for the hero. And Lou Reed plays our main villain, Mock, and Iggy Pop plays the demon who Mock brings out from the lower depths of the universe. And Earth, Wind, and Fire do a dance hall music scene. So it's really very interesting in terms of the use of music. And we were also really ahead of the time in terms of computer effects for the effects scenes. We had invested heavily in computer technology for our animation cameras and designed very innovative special effects scenes. So while the movie was released through MGM UA at the time, and while it wasn't a box office success, it has become a cult favorite for fans.
I want to talk a little bit about Beetlejuice. You did an animated Saturday morning show based on the Tim Burton movie. Before we talk about Beetlejuice, though, you write in your book that in order to get those rights, you owned the rights to do Batman. And Warner Brothers said, well, we won't let you do Beetlejuice unless you give up the rights for Batman. This was before the Michael Keaton, Jack Nicholson movie had come out. You gave up those rights. It worked out for you. Beetlejuice was a hit. It won you an Emmy, first Emmy. I'm curious though, looking back at it in hindsight, knowing what you know now of where Batman went from that point on, was there any regret giving up the rights to Batman?
There was a lot of regret giving up the rights to Batman. I was a comic book fan as a kid, and Batman was a favorite. And we had done an interesting development on the Batman property, but we had developed it with the ABC network for Saturday morning. They ended up passing on it, and then I went to every other network to give them a chance at it before we took the Warner's deal. And because everybody passed on it and our rights were going to lapse anyway, it was an easy decision to make. And Beetlejuice really was fantastic for us because it allowed us to, show our comedy chops, which was not something that we were really well known for, though we had co-produced Inspector Gadget, which is a good comedy series.
I'm curious what your vision of had you held on to the rights of Batman and had somebody picked it up. What was kind of your vision? What was the tone of your version of Batman? Because what came after that, well, of course, was the Batman the Animated Series for Fox, which was dark and it's considered one of the great animated shows of the 90s. But I'm curious how your version would have been different from that version.
Yeah, so ours would have been much more of a typical pre-Dark Batman version. It really, good stories, good character, but the dark Batman had not yet been evolved when we did that, and at the same time, we hadn't seen what Tim Burton did. When we worked with Tim, I went to visit London and visited him on the set and saw what he was doing, and it would have been better to make the Batman movie after you've seen the Tim Burton movie and after you get into the Frank Miller, graphic novels, etc. So I think all in all, I regret that they didn't come back to us for Batman, because we really had a terrific animation studio, but didn't go that way. But we did Beetlejuice, which I love, and I think it's one of the best shows that I've produced.
And it won an Emmy. You've worked with some interesting personalities over the years. You write in the book about mention a couple, Mr. T and also Roseanne. You did the Little Rosey cartoon. Anything you'd like to share? Any stories about working and meeting Mr. T and Roseanne?
Sure. So in the case of Mr. T, he was exactly who you expected him to be. It was like he walked out of the A-Team into your living room, and that's the guy you dealt with. And he was consistent. He was really good to work with. He was straight ahead, and you knew where he stood, and he was fantastic at selling. So the show we did was done directly after A-Team was canceled. And we created a show, I co-created it, called TNT, where we put him in a suit, and he was a detective working with a lawyer who was a blonde lawyer, female lawyer, who had saved him from prison where he had been falsely convicted, and she got him out. And so he went to work for her as a detective, put him in a suit, and it was a great sort of twist on his image, because when he, had to go undercover, when he had to hit the city streets to find, what was really happening in the mystery involved, he changed into his street fighting clothes and became the Mr. T that everybody knows. So it was kind of like a Superman twist, right? Where he was Clark Kent and he was Superman. But we had some great fun when we went to sell the show station by station, which was what we had to do. We had a dinner at NatP, which was this convention that at the time was held in New Orleans. And he went from table to table in a room of easily like 1,000 people, station by station, meeting the station managers, shaking their hands, and saying to them, you got to be a fool not to take TNT. So really, he delivered. And then in the case of Roseanne, she was fantastic to work with. We never had a single problem with Roseanne. She was always good to us. We nailed the show she wanted. At the time, she was partnered with Tom, and they were married, and they were just positive, made the whole thing easy. And even when they were on their honeymoon in France, they were staying in Nice, which is near where there's a TV conference in Cannes every year. And they came into Cannes to meet the press. And despite the fact that the press weren't exactly in the first room we entered, and we eventually found the press, they had the press conference, and it was all in all a terrific experience. So my experience with talent has been really good over the years. People love working on cartoons, and you get their best selves.
I had an encounter with Mr. T once indirectly. I was coming out of a Ralph's supermarket in Sherman Oaks, and they had a table out there with Girl Scout cookies. So I got to run over there because, of course, you got to check out the Girl Scout cookies. And I'm looking at the table, and there's somebody next to me, and I just hear this voice, and he goes, "I don't want no cookies. I just want to give some money to help the kids." And I was like, he had a fishing hat on and sunglasses, but I instantly know who it was. And I was like, "Hey, you're Lawrence T. Rowe." And he goes, "How you doing, young man?" And I was like, "Hey, I used to eat your cereal." So that was my Mr. T encounter. It was he is what you see on screen.
By the way, when a celebrity looks to disguise themselves, it draws a tremendous amount of attention, and everybody looks at them and says, "Yeah, okay, that's a celebrity trying to disguise themselves."
You could instantly
tell who it was.
I'm curious, how important is it, you think, for a successful animated program to be based on either a children's book or a toy or a pre-existing movie or television show? It seems like that's kind of all of the, you pick any children's show that's successful, it's based on one of those three things. And most of your shows, some of yours were based on toys, Care Bears and things like that, but a lot of them were based on classic children's stories. How important is that, you think, in telling stories through animation for kids?
Yeah, so children's television has always been under-marketed and under-financed in its promotion of the titles. And so in a world where you don't have lots of marketing money and you don't get a lot of screen time to promote the title, having a title people recognize, having a title that people already know helps draw in the audience. So, it's actually very helpful that, when you have something people know in the kids area. Having said that, some of the biggest hits, like Bluey today, is a big hit and, was an original property, but it took 10 years to build. Peppa Pig was an original property that built into a hit. It took 10 years to build, but you can do it faster with something that has a built-in core audience. And so at Nelvana, we found that we had, a penchant, I had a passion personally for books. And so a lot of our most successful shows like Magic School Bus, Babar, Tintin, Rupert Bear, Little Bear, Franklin, Max and Ruby, all based on books, Berenstain Bears, I can go on. Great list of book properties. And what's great about it when you do a book is you're promoting reading to kids because they want to then go and find the books and read more about their characters. And that's one of the things that's great in children's television and animation is the degree to which kids want to go and have a 360 degree. If there's a book, they want the book. If there's a pair of pajamas, they want to sleep in the pajamas. They want to sleep on the sheets. They want to wear the t-shirt, the baseball hat, etc., with their favorite character. So it's really a way of delivering like an entire world into the kid's life.
We are sadly almost out of time. Before we go, I want to ask you, what are your thoughts on the current state of the animation industry today? And if you could take the magical youth elixir and go back in time and suddenly you're 20, in your mid to late 20s again, starting out in today's world, in the year 2024, do you think it is easier to get to break into the animation business? Do you think it's harder? And with all of the different venues now, streaming services and cable networks and more opportunities, there's more shows out there. Do you think it's harder for something to find an audience because there's so many choices?
So sadly, we're seeing a lot of those choices disappear. So the cable companies are losing subscribers. The audiences are 10% of what they used to be. I'm talking about the kids' channels. And the audience has moved to streaming. And the key, and half the audience is watching YouTube. Now, YouTube represents this fantastic opportunity. If I were just starting out in the business today, and I'm addressing you young animators out there, this is a great opportunity. You don't have to go sell the network. You don't have to get on a list of approved vendors, like people who they buy from. You basically can make something, sit in your room, do the animation, and the tools today allow you to do that. And it can be something pretty simple, and it can grow with you as you do more and more animation and you have more talent. And if it starts to earn revenue, you can use some of that revenue and build a team around you that allows you to make more shows with better quality. So you can build a career out of YouTube, and many people are doing that successfully. And I think YouTube represents such a fantastic opportunity for young talent that there was nothing like that in my day. You had to figure out how you were going to get your film, your show on TV or in a movie theater. And there were gatekeepers. So what's great about YouTube is there is no official gatekeeper as long as you're not breaking their rules.
Well, Michael, it's been such a pleasure to talk to you. People, if you want to hear more stories about Michael Hirsch's life and his creation of his companies and the shows that he worked on and the people he worked with, get his book. It's called Animation Nation, How We Built the Cartoon Empire. It's available July 23rd. And if you're at San Diego Comic-Con, check out his panel Thursday, July 25th, 10 a.m. And you can buy the book afterwards, get it signed. Michael, thanks so much for chatting with us today on Cherry the Geek TV.
Yeah, great to spend some time with you. Thanks.